Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar on optimizing your supply chain by sourcing from India. My name is Judah Tobias, leading OEM business development at Source Machining Specialties. It's a pleasure to have you all here today. For those new to us, Source Machining Specialties partners with top manufacturers in India, delivering high quality, complex engineered components to OEMs and tier one suppliers across various industries. We're here to show you the strategic edge India offers in the global supply chain. This webinar is packed with insights and will explore the supply chain landscape, best practices for building strong supplier relationships, and how to navigate shipping and geopolitical challenges. Feel free to drop your questions in the chat, and our experts will tackle them in a dedicated Q&A session at the end. We're thrilled to have two industry leaders with us today. First, we have Deepak Labba, who was the General Manager of Supply Chain for South and East Asia at Regal Rexnord Corp. Deepak brings with him 30 years of experience in the supply chain field and has a wealth of knowledge about the strategic advantages of sourcing from India. Next, we are joined by Nikhil Dandekar, the Regional Manager at IMEX Shipping and Logistics. Nikhil has 20 years of experience in logistics and will provide us with an in-depth look at the current shipping scenario between India and the US, as well as how to navigate the complexities of trade and logistics. Let's get started. Deepak, the floor is yours.
Judah, I think thanks for the introduction. So just to add to what you mentioned, we have we have two industry experts joining here. Myself, Deepak Labba, just to introduce. We have one of my colleagues also joining from the logistics field. But then what I will cover here is basically supply chain, and Nikhil will cover some of the logistics areas. And the points of agenda here are, what's the advantage of sourcing from, components from India. And I'll just give a little bit of overview of supply chain landscape in India, developing effective relationship with Indian suppliers, and basically not only relationship, but also mitigating risks of sourcing from India. So with this, I would, also try to add that, we, the kind of softer things what we do in India. So a quick highlight on the Indian scenario here. As we know, India is a Southeast Asian nation with largest country by area, seventh largest country by area, and second most populous with 1.4 billion people. Largest democracy, rich cultural heritage, and not only that, but it's a diverse country with unique diversity of adaptability of global changes. Now, India is also a key destination for global investments. In terms of development, driven by vast industrial base, and there is a huge workforce, young population, which is fueling a lot of demand and innovation. Many people know about this, but then this is something which is highlighted India, and then it also trickles down to the the kind of economic ascent India is having in the recent times. It's a strong economic growth which we have witnessed since COVID times, and currently it's about it's crossed US UK in terms of the fifth largest economy. With a lot of population, the global the domestic demand is also enabling the government to focus on capital expenditure. So these are significant government-enabled activities which are happening. And then from export point of view also, I think what happens is because of the growing local consumption and exports, engineering goods form a major portion of the exports, more than 25%. And government enabling in capital spending, and also enabling a lot of digital infrastructure, like on the tax side and tariffs, and generally making it more easier to do business in India. No doubt, India is going to grow further in terms of being one among the top three global economics globally. In terms of in the next 10 or 15 years, supported by the robust democracy and strong partnership globally. while we talk about India in a silo, I believe what we also need to look at what's happening. How is India positioned across the global scenario? Now, this is a good slide which I was interested to present this. Uh, and in the current scenario, everybody knows the kind of risk we have. What's the geopolitical risk? I mean, some of the top risks are, it's in the four quadrants when we look at it, from low impact to high impact or low likelihood to high likelihood. I think some of the risk or the challenges or tensions between countries is something which is causing a high impact. But more than that, the most significant is the climate risk. Uh, the other risks are energy and deglobalization, and because of a digital world, the cyber attacks. But when you look at all this, this is a simplistic slide, but I'm sure everybody is aware the amount of geopolitical risk we live in today. With this scenario, I think how does India stand? How does India stand in all this? Uh, so I'm trying to bring the context here while we also talk about supply chain in the subsequent slides. So what's India's role in this globe? Now, India, of course, as we all know, I mean, in this geopolitical environment, India plays a multi-alignment strategy. I mean, not taking sides. It's using a balanced approach. In these geopolitical challenges. And that's the skill set of the Indian leadership, and so that they have diplomatic engagement with all countries for economic cooperation and strategic engagement. One of the best examples of this was the G20 presidency, which India was leading. In 2023, they concluded that. Now, if you remember the earlier slide, we have the biggest geopolitical risk is climate change, and if you read the theme of G20, it was one Earth, one family, one future. Now, this is in Indian terms, it's called Vasudhaiva Kutungam. Now, this is something which is the thought is about we are all one family across the globe. We can all prosper together. I mean, no part of the world is immune to what's happening across the globe. And with this theme, India as a G20 presidency was able to get in a consensus across all the G20 nations, including the inclusion of African Union. So I think, very inclusive. And this was the theme. And then, they promoted a lot of sustainable, responsible, future for all of the globe. And G20, of course, is the economic cooperation as well. So that's the role India plays globally. Now, add to that, what the government is doing is, the foreign trade. I mean, it's good to be a good citizen and a good player across the globe, but how do we trade with the global economies? 23 was a new foreign trade policy which was published by the government of India. And there are four pillars, basically incentivizing the trade, incentivizing the suppliers, export promotions through collaborations, ease of doing business. I just touched based on that, digitization and initiatives. And then, of course, emerging areas, be it e-commerce, developing regions, districts, export hubs, and the SCOMED policies. SCOMED stands for special chemicals, organisms, materials, those are something which are for dual use purpose. Like, when we talk about materials, it could be nuclear material. So the confidence, the way the government is going into SCOMED policies is showing the kind of maturity they have collaboration across the globe. And SCOMED, if for example, if you have to export something from India, which falls under SCOMED, you have to have that kind of trust and understanding with the global countries across the globe. So with this foreign trade policies, I think it's enabling a lot of export and collaboration across the globe. In terms of pure numbers, I mean, not only what government is doing, but there are some more pictures and data here. But on the left-hand side, you will see that not only government initiatives, but there are a lot of public-private partnerships happening in international investments. Of course, the labor pool, the demand is there, and domestic consumption. With all these aspects, I think it's these are the growth drivers. This not only, I mean, on the right-hand side, you will see that you have a lot of numbers, particularly these are taken from the manufacturing sector. Now, as an industry, as a manufacturing sector, you see all those graphs which are going up. The numbers are going up in terms of the sectors. It could be services, computer hardware, and telecommunications, and all those areas. And the capacity building, those are the trends what we see. And of course, the government initiatives. So with all this, I think this is just one example of the manufacturing sector where the government influence has played the role of an enabler. Now, I would say that, I could cover 1 or 2 hours or maybe a whole day talking about all the initiatives. I've left a link here in terms of ibf.org where, you can look at each of those sectors and study, in terms of what's happening in these areas. I would definitely share one example. Now, it's kind of a success story how the government is enabling and how the industries on their own are kind of taking it upon themselves and having this success. For example, CG Power at one point of time it was almost bankrupt, and then they took the leadership to turn around the company. Today, very recently, the government of India opened a new factory in Gujarat, and this company has a collaboration with Japan and Thailand. Some companies there, and then they are introducing the most advanced items today in India, like chip manufacturing. So even the leadership, V. Subbaya, I mean, he's the chairman. He's been awarded at the highest level as a EI Entrepreneur of the Year at India at a global platform as well. So this kind of enabling environment is causing this kind of success stories, and this is happening across the board. Of course, when we look at Center of Excellence, we look at the economic highlights of India, which was published by our finance minister, and some of the global rating agencies as well. HSBC India PMI indicates, the manufacturing, activities on a surge. It's consistently above 50. Now, India is a very big country, and there are a lot of large companies, but the heart of all these activities from the MSME, medium, small, micro, and industries. Now, Indian economy, of course, is growing at 8.2%, but many of these contributors is coming from MSME, which contributes more than 35% of manufacturing, which is, of course, critical for employment, economic growth. And on the right hand side, I mean, if you see that, I think it's a very big country, but much of the manufacturing clusters are happening around the traditional auto belt and the IT belts. We talk about the west and south, and of course a lot of activities in the north as well. Now, being right in the heart of this active manufacturing clusters is what enables us to get those success stories out to the global audience and share what's happening in India. Now, this is something probably I've covered a lot about what's India, what's economy, what's the macroeconomic situation. But these are the last two slides. Probably I will spend more time here, in terms of what we do as being in India as a supply chain specialist. What we do here. Of course, it's a digital world. If on the left hand side you will see we can do a lot of online. The way we are doing this webinar, we can have a great website. We can be searchable on Google, social media, and the business networking. Now it takes a lot of effort. Thanks to the team here to bring in this webinar, and it's also there is a cost involved, and I think there is so much a digital world can do, but what can be done online, more can be accomplished with a lot of offline steps. Now, offline steps could be people to people connect, mostly building the trust. Now, when we talk about India supply chain, now we are also talking about how we engage with the global customer base. How do we connect to the customers? How do we connect to the suppliers? How do we build the bridges or build the gaps? Now, having I mean, if you look from the point of view of suppliers, they are looking for reputable suppliers. They are looking for the local endorsement from the local teams in India, and the comfort zone comes in only when we have the personal touch. So having a local connect, having the perspective, talking to the clients, talking to the suppliers is what enhances the trust and credibility. So this is an area where not everything can be captured in a digital world. These are the things what we can add. I mean, me personally, I'm a supply chain specialist, having done my master's in international trade. having spent 30 years in this area, the area of how we can add to the supply chain is by picking up, as simple as picking up what commodities make sense to be, procured from this part of the world, what clusters, what regions to look out for, should we go with a large company, a large supplier, or a small supplier from a MSME, those kind of things. And then how do we take advantage of all the trickle down effect from the government and the geopolitical influence which has on the Indian supply base? How do we tap that? Which are the today, when you look at the India map and all the states around, each of the states are competing among each others to promote their states and promote their industrial parks. So how do we tap those areas? How do we take those tax advantages? And at the same time, keeping an eye for the environment. I mean, all those areas, we can bring in that experience to get the best solutions. Now, the benefits could be several. I mean, when we pick up a right supplier, we can look at how they are financial stable, how they are moldable, in terms of alignment and how committed they are, including as simple as the cost and the quality aspect, and even how they are building this supply chain for us with the investment they are putting in. I mean, those are all the things which we look at in terms of finding the right sources. So I think I would say that the balance is between digital world, which is the fact of today, and how do we make an impact on a personal level to build the trust. Finally, I mean, no global supply chain is the truth of the truth is there are risks, but then there is help on the way as well. We can mitigate this risk with using all these tools. APQP. I mean, we know APQP is advanced planning, quality planning. These are some of the areas which we can leverage. It takes different forms. It could be a feasibility study, which is a customized feasibility study for a customer or a supplier. Voice of the customer, just hearing the customer, it gives us a lot of ideas. And then supplier visits and audits. A lot of suggestions we can, from the experience, we can build in from the supplier audits and visits. And of course, tools like FMEA, MSA, SPC, and PPAP. Now, these are tools which, of course, are very scientific way of analyzing a supplier, mitigating the risk. But again, for example, these are the tools I use extensively. Being a green belt certified, I use extensively to make sure we give zero PPM suppliers. Many of our suppliers from India have won awards at a global level, demonstrating zero PPM. And in addition to this risk, I mean, this is not exhaustive, but the risk could be trade, material compliance, and the lead time risk and data analytics. So lead time, of course, Nikhil will cover some of that. But I think looking at all this risk, there are ways to mitigate this risk. So building trust, relationship with promising suppliers, and also using those tools is what is the solutions what we can give from India. So with that, I think I will just hand it back to Judah.
Thank you, Deepak. Thank you for those powerful insights on the benefits from sourcing from India. It's pretty clear that India offers strategic advantages that can transform supply chain operations. Please remember to drop questions in the chat. We'll tackle them during our Q&A sessions. Now's a good time to prepare those, and please submit them. Now let's talk logistics. Navigating shipping and trade between India and the US is key to maximizing these benefits. Nikhil, with 20 years in the field, is here to guide us through the current shipping landscape and the geopolitical challenges. Nikhil, we're eager to hear your insights on the logistics and trade aspects. Please take it away.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Judah. Let's start off with this. Well, thank you, Deepak, Judah, for giving this opportunity to us and giving a short profile or short presentation on how India is equipped as far as logistics goes. I believe Deepak has already given some insights about sourcing from India, even though through digital platforms or to the technicalities and everything. Deepak is the best person to advise on it. But when it comes to moving those supplies from India, we come into picture, and being logistics service providers, We have been working on US trade, particularly for last almost 10-15 years. So to start off with, I am covering few topics like what is the overview or the overview of current India-US trade, India's infrastructure as far as logistics and shipping perspective is concerned, routing options, what we have to expedite your moves from India to US, current shipping scenario as far as India-US trade is concerned, and geopolitical issues and trade challenges. To begin with, we get into overview of current India-US trade. As Deepak rightly said, India has been a great sourcing area around the globe. So what major products which exports from India to US are engineering goods, auto parts, foodstuffs, chemicals, and many more. Like there are perishable goods, castings, iron and steel components. You have textiles, apparels, everything which is being sourced from India to USA. What we have seen is there has been a growth in India's exports to US in last few years, and which has increased from 3.3% to 4.1% as far as logistics is concerned. This is what we have seen all these years. Of course, container shipping growth has been phenomenal in last few years post-COVID. We have seen most benefited area in US for this particularly containerized shipping growth. It's US East Coast, and predominantly New York and Savannah are the most benefited terminals, I would say, or the most trafficked terminals in US, considering their connectivity with the Midwest area in US, and US Midwest being an automotive hub, New York and Savannah happens to be the gateways. What are the major, like we have seen many carriers operating all these years between India and US trade, but consistent has been Hapag-Lloyd, to name few, like Hapag-Lloyd, CMS, CGM, One Line, MSC, and Maersk Line, of course. These are the main carriers which serve between India-US trade. So while we are talking about India-US trade, as a logistics service provider, we generally divide India into four parts when it comes to geographical locations of the suppliers or the exporters is concerned. So it predominantly consists of North and Northwest India, Western and Central part of India. Third part is Southern India, which covers Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, and those states down there. And fourth part is eastern part of India, which predominantly covers West Bengal, Orissa, and Jharkhand, that area. So the idea to show this map or this division, what we have done as a logistics service provider is while choosing or rather while you are shipping anything out of India, and if your supplier is located in any of these areas, it's always advisable to choose the nearest port of loading for easiest way of operations and to get things moving faster. Moving on to next slide is India's logistics and shipping infrastructure. These are the main gateway ports of India. I mean, India has approximately 7,500 kilometers coastline, starting it from western part of India in Gujarat till West Bengal on the eastern side, and it has mainly 12 to 13 major ports. Namely, to start off with is Mundra in the west side of India, Then Nhava Sheva, moving on to Goa port, then Mangalore. We have Chennai, Ennore, Vizag, Paradip, and Kolkata port on the eastern side of India. So any of your suppliers who are based in nearby areas of these ports, probably you can choose which port you are going to ship out your goods from. So that's the idea, and that's what the infrastructure as far as sea shipments are concerned, containerized cargo is concerned. So you have the liberty to choose the port nearest to your supplier's premises or supplier's facility. So what are the major airports, or which are the major airports in India as far as their connectivity is concerned with the US international terminals, East Coast or West Coast, whatever it may be. But these few airports like Mumbai, Delhi, Chennai, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Kolkata, Ahmedabad, Cochin, they have regular and fantastic connectivity with the US airports in East Coast, in Midwest, in Southern Gulf of US, even in East Coast, even on West Coast of US. There are certain direct flights which are operating from Delhi, Mumbai to Chicago. Like so, if at all you intend to move anything from these areas near to Delhi or near to Mumbai, we can definitely give you some services directly getting into Chicago or Midwest or that region. So when we are talking about infrastructure, something which cannot be ignored is the ICDs or the inland container depots, which are or in terms of if we talk about in US terminology, it's a railhead or a rail ramp, what we have. So that is something very crucial when it comes to moving goods across the India. So considering the area or the spread of India, as Deepak said, I mean, it is wide, very wide area when it comes to moving the goods or anything. So we have 66 ICDs or inland container depots spread across India, which has connectivity to majority of the gateway ports. Supposing you are planning to bring in something from the northern part of India, so we can connect it to western ports of in Western India, like Mundra or maybe Nhava Sheva, which are gateway ports of India actually, when it comes to US. So that is something these ICDs play quite a crucial role when it comes to connectivity from the hinterlands of India. So what are the facilities that we offer at ICDs or the inland container depots in India? It's basically a custom bonded area where you can load containers, you can bring in your supplier's cargo, load it in the containers, customs clearance the cargo, and move it on rail or by road to the nearest port. As I said, if it is from northern India, it can come to Mundra or it can come to Nhava Sheva. So that's kind of facility ICDs give or inland container depots give when it comes to movement of the cargo. And believe me, it is going to be a revolution when it comes to movements from the ICDs or inland interlands of India to gateway ports, because ICDs currently are playing very good role as far as logistical movement is concerned, be it LCL like less than truckload or even container load moving on rail, anything. But they are giving good support to all the exporters, all the importers in India to move their goods and move it in time, I would say. So how these the first slide, if you remember, I have mentioned 4 areas of India and how they are connected to the airports and the seaports or the ICDs along all around India. So if you go to north, that is area 1, north and northwest India, the main states which are covered are Delhi, Haryana, Himachal Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Punjab, Rajasthan, UP, Uttarakhand. So if you have any suppliers located in either of these states, their airport of connectivity can be Delhi. they can connect their cargo to the nearest ICD in Tughlakabad, Muradabad. There are many in that particular region which finally connect to Mundra, Navasheva, or Kandla ports through rail or by road. Similarly, in Western India or Central India, we have Maharashtra, Goa, and Gujarat, wherein we have Mumbai, Goa, and Ahmedabad as main gateway airports, or where air connectivity to US. Again, ICDs which are connected are Mihan, Dawlatabad, and many more which connect to Navasheva and Mundra. Again, I'm saying Navasheva and Mundra is gateway terminals of India. Not only for Western India, they are gateway terminal for entire North Indian cargo, which is moving out of India or moving into India. Similarly, in southern India, we have states Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Chhattisgarh, Kerala, Telangana, wherein Hyderabad, Bangalore, Cochin are the main hubs or the airports which have regular connectivity to entire US East Coast, Midwest, West Coast, you name it, and we have that connectivity with majority of the air carriers operating from all these airports. Again, these ICDs like Whitefield in Bangalore and many other like Tondiarpet, Guntur, Sanat Nagar, they all have connectivity with Navasheva and Chennai, both. So when it comes to moving the goods from India, there has been predominantly few carriers which has been operating for many years through the consortiums or the vessels. But now there is a situation after COVID that many carriers have started their own independent services from India lands to USA. So it gives opportunity for the exporters from India to load maximum cargoes from India, and that too again in time to US coastal lines, East Coast, West Coast, be it whatever like. So that's the key advantage of moving it from India. I mean, we have various options. We have at least 7 to 8 carriers who have regular connectivity from Indian ports to US ports. This is just to give you an example how much transit time we have from Navasheva or Mundra to east coast of USA. This is at this point, this transit time is bit on a higher side considering the Suez Canal crisis, but this is like addition of 8 to 10 days or 15 days into normal transit. So anything you have moved from Indian ports like Navasheva to New York, it's around like 22 days if we move it via Suez Canal. But if in current situation, it's not happening. It's taking some more time because they have to take a turn and go from Cape of Good Hope to Europe and then further to US. Similarly, in case of West Coast, this is just an example of the transit time. Again, though US West Coast is not connected via Suez Canal, but it moves either via Far East ports or the Chinese ports or that side of the world. So it takes approximately 35 to 40 days or 45 days to reach Los Angeles, Oakland, and Tacoma. So when I said there has been increase in transit time, or rather things or the duration of the vessels, there has been some reasons to it. Like as I mentioned, Suez crisis or the current Suez Canal crisis, which is going on, which is a vital connecting trade route connecting Indian subcontinent and Asia to Europe and USA. It is being affected almost since last 1 year when Houthi rebels attacked few cargo vessels in 2023, late of 2023, which forced carriers to reroute all the ships, all the services via Cape of Good Hope in South Africa, which led to increased in transit times since it added 6,000 kilometers to their transit, incurring into, of course, higher ocean freights, and again, shortage of container inventory was also created in that case. Again, China trade imbalance, which also played a crucial role in all the in the last couple of years, especially in 2024, since there has been significant surge in China-US trade in last 4 5 months, wherein Chinese exporters have booked large number of containers to USA, causing inventory imbalance in the Indian subcontinent and other areas. So these are just to name a few geopolitical issues which are affecting trade, but they are affecting the trade in a very larger scale, because currently we are getting heat of it, and not as we as a service providers, but it's everyone, like whosoever is involved in the logistics or whosoever is involved in the supply chain or exports or imports activity. So moving on to last slide, probably is current shipping scenario in India-US trade. Again, as I said, like geopolitical issues are affecting trades like trade like anything. I mean, these pricing, space constraints on sudden increase in ocean freights, space constraints, irregular vessel schedules, blank sailings, port congestion, all these factors are affecting India-US trade quite a lot. But nevertheless, I mean, even though these factors are affecting trade, still we have been trying our level best to give best of the solutions to all our customers and make sure their cargo reaches on time and keep it on I would say positive note that of course these situations will improve in coming months, and hoping to get it solved as much as possible. So we being IMX Shipping, we have been in this industry as a logistics service provider since 2007. We have presence around the globe, our trusted associates. We are registered with US Federal Maritime Commission, that is USFMC. We are authorized for multimodal transport document under USFMC. Services what we offer is we do give VMI services, warehousing services, AMS and ISF filing, which is mandatory for US bound cargo. Third country shipments, we do handle third country shipments not only from India to US, but in any part of the world to US, we can handle. Region-wise associates in US, we have specialized service providers all around the US who can give you best of logistical services. We do handle buyers consoles, buyer consolidations, and yes, of course, customs clearance, trucking, freight forwarding, warehousing and distribution, special cargo handling, as well as hazmat cargo handling. That's what we offer as a logistics service providers. So yeah, that's it from mine.
Your breakdown of routing options and trade complexities is and was invaluable. Now let's open up the floor for some questions. I have a few in the chat here. Keep them coming in. And I will direct them over to both Nikhil and Deepak, depending. Let's start with this first one that we have. I have, how can Indian suppliers offer extended payment terms without compromising their working capital needs? Gentlemen, feel free to chime in, Nikhil or Deepak.
Yeah, let me take that, Judah. Thanks for the question. Yes, I think working capital or payment terms are critical for business, and particularly so in a global environment where we have a supplier, for example, a supplier based in India supplying to a customer in North America. So the terms of payment does impact the cash flow, not only for the supplier, but even for the customer, in terms of DPOs and, the days payable outstanding. So those are real metrics which are being tracked, not only at the customer side, but at the supplier side. So uh, fortunately enough, there is help on the way. I think, as I mentioned, in my presentation, the government plays a key role in enabling the ecosystem. And as we all know that, as per the central government RBI, which is called Reserve Bank of India in India, so uh, for every exports, the time limit to get the remittance is 6 months. So that's one of the best remittance time period as regulatory, which is provided by the government of India. But at the same time, there are many schemes. I mean, we know about cash discounting. We know about bill discounting. There are means which can be used. Supply chain financing is the thing. Or in several terms. It could be bill discounting, supply chain financing. These are extensively used in India to support our customers get extended payment terms. So we can use a combination of these means to get extended payment terms for the suppliers. I hope that answers the question, Judah.
It certainly does. I have another question here. We'll move on to the next one. How do Indian suppliers manage quality exceptions when they are identified at a global location outside of India?
Yeah, let me
Nikhil?
take that again. Let me take that question, Judah.
Sure.
Now, I think in my last slides, I was talking about all the tools what we used to make sure we address the risk. And one of the risk is, of course, quality exceptions. Now, building a part at a supplier and shipping it to a global customer uh, does involve a lot of hard work. So we always believe in getting it first time right. So what it means is that there is a lot of back end work which is done in terms of right from the feasibility to the APQP, and getting the right suppliers on board, and having the right export orientation and culture. All this back end work which is done ensures that we get first time right, and zero ppm parts out to the customer. Now, in spite of all this, if there are quality issues, there are means to address it. We have corrective actions, we have 8Ds, by which we can make sure those are addressed timely, and then they are mitigated, and we have the corrective actions built in so that it does not repeat again. So there are several ways, the back end work, and how do we address once the issues do happen. But I mean, believe me, I mean, quality is a given. We pay suppliers for a good quality part, not for a bad quality. So the expectation is that the supplier gives good quality for what we pay for. So I think when the suppliers own up the quality, I think that's when the ownership ensures the quality is right. And it's a cultural shift. I mean, we don't believe in inspection, we don't believe in sorting. And of course, if there are suppliers, I mean, we ensure those suppliers are not on board. But if there are suppliers where we have issues, there are means like firewalls as well. We have a very good firewall system by which many of these are addressed at the source. Shab. Judah, back to you.
Fantastic.
Deepak, just to add, sorry, Judah,
No problem.
when you're talking about quality, just to add something is we face these concerns many a times when it comes to packing of the cargo, which is, I'm sure it is directly connected with the quality of the product or the durability or the endurance of the product, because that is something focus needs to be given by the suppliers or the overall manufacturer. So that's what I feel. Quality, again, it relates to packaging of the material as well.
Yeah, good point, Nikhil.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, take corrosion. I mean, it's a fact of life. Material going by sea, shipping, it's subjected to all the adverse
Yes.
environmental factors. So having the right solutions, rust preventive, VCI, vapor corrosion inhibitor packaging and all that stuff are part of those solutions, which ensures that, the part which is produced here, exactly goes to the customer the way they want it. So
Right.
good point. Yeah, great point. Yeah.
Thank you. And Deepak, I'll take a moment to ask you a personal question, which is how can India suppliers support on addressing shipping delays and still manage to get on-time delivery?
Wow, I would let Nikhil take it. I mean, he did address it beautifully in his slide where, the solutions they provide. VMI,
Yep.
one of the things, and
Okay.
consignment is another.
Yeah, VMI is one
Yeah.
solution where you store the goods in your in the warehouses. That is something the facility which we can also provide as a logistics service provider. Consoles or consolidations is another solution to it to avoid any delays. Considering any importer in US is planning to have multiple parts from multiple suppliers, and if at all they are not able to fulfill the containerized requirement, then still it can be shipped out of India on the consolidation basis, like buyers consolidation, what I mentioned in my presentation. So that is also something can be a solution where you have single buyer and multiple suppliers. So that is something pretty much possible, Judah.
Thank you. Take another moment here. Anyone has any last questions here? Otherwise, thank you very much for joining us today on optimizing your supply chain by sourcing from India. There's a reason Source Machining Specialties has been going strong since the 90s, and we continue to plan on doing so. So thank you all for joining us. If there's any last words, Deepak or Nikhil, you would like to add? Otherwise,
Thanks
we
again,
thank you.
Judah and Source Machining team, for inviting us. And yeah, these are exciting times. I mean, I can look around in India and what's happening, and what's happening in US as well. Though there is a lot of protectionism, but globalization is here to stay. And more than near shoring or more than offshoring, the term what is, today in today's time is trust shoring. How do we trust each other as countries, as companies, and leverage that to our advantage? So with that, I will leave that thought. Trust shoring is something which is going to be the thing which we'll have to look out for. Thanks, everyone.
I agree with Deepak because when we say trust shoring, it starts with supplier and it ends with the logistics service provider. So trust is something definitely is a part, or it's something which is going to be like futuristic thing for sure.
Right on.
Yep.
Cool. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone who joined us from all around the globe.
Thank you very much.
Yes.